freedom of speech and the right to assemble, perhaps in the eye of the overzealous beholder when it comes to John McCain's campaign staff. Our third story on the countdown, while Mr. McCain was delivering, quote, straight talk at one of his open forum town hall meetings in Denver yesterday, things were getting closed down just outside.
Ma'am, I need you to remove the sign. I was going to ask you once you're done. Thank you.
I don't understand why you're asking us to do this.
Well, just because I've been asked to.
You've been asked to?
Yes,
That's great. By who?
By representatives of the Secret Service.
You have two choices. You can keep your sign here and receive a ticket for trespass, or you can remove the sign and stay in line and attend this town hall meeting.
Now, I want this. Are we all listening?
Yeah.
You're saying that I am trespassing on city property.
No, he's saying you're trespassing on city property.
Am I being arrested?
Yeah.
Removed. I don't know if I'm in custody.
Court date is July 23rd. City County Building is ready back.
We got our official escort.
The unassuming protester is part-time librarian and former Denver Post reporter Carol Kreck, ultimately escorted off the property by 4 police officers. The 60-year-old woman was given a citation and a court date. But because librarians are trained democracy superheroes, Ms. Kreck did not stay silent for long.
I believe he said the ticket was for trespassing. He said if I came back into the plaza, I would be arrested and taken to jail. It says McCain equals Bush. Now, any Republican, why is that offensive? Why would Republicans who voted for Bush find it offensive that a sign says Bush equals McCain or McCain equals Bush?
Progress Now Action tells Countdown they have created a defense fund for Ms. Kreck, and they are looking into filing a lawsuit on her behalf. Let's break this down with Jim Moore, author and a contributor to the Huffington Post. Jim, thanks for your time this evening.
Hi, Rachel.
Why don't we start with Ms. Kreck's question there? If her sign had said, I heart John McCain, would she have been so swiftly booted? I mean, I think she kind of makes a good point. Why would a loyal Republican be insulted at the comparison of McCain to Bush?
Yeah, Republican campaigns would be so much easier to run if we could just get this pesky freedom of the speech thing out of the way. and the truth is they really don't want to be equated with George Bush. It's a bad brand to be carrying forward. We were talking about Al Gore earlier today with some people, and he obviously would have loved to have had somebody say he was extending the Clinton administration by another term, even though he did work to separate himself. Clearly there were people inside of this facility, this publicly tax-paid facility that was rented by the McCain campaign. There were people inside there who were expressing their opinions, probably wearing buttons. Why weren't they escorted out? I think this is an ugly kind of thing for the McCain campaign to have happen and for everyone to concentrate on instead of what was going on inside of that building.
Technically, the grounds of this Performing Arts Center in Denver are not public property. The center is, however, partially financed by tax dollars.
Right.
Regardless of all that, I mean, isn't the PR fiasco that has ensued here, and that won't go away anytime soon, as you kind of alluded to here, don't you think this fiasco is probably worse and more disruptive than anything Ms. Kreck could have done in her original infraction?
Well, if the real issue is trying to separate themselves from George W. Bush, this certainly isn't the way to do it. They're doing a number of things that the Bush campaign has done throughout, which is try to control the crowds, try to control the message, to keep dissent at a minimum. And this is almost rebranding themselves as the Bush campaign, except the McCain version of it. And so by doing this, whatever John McCain may have said inside of that building on that particular day, even if he were saying, $10,000 tax rebates for everybody, it still would have had to compete with the news of taking a 16-year-old woman and a couple of policemen, a couple of feet taller than her, taking her out of the facility and giving her a ticket for trespassing on something that is at least partially paid for by taxpayers. It's very ugly.
Jim, David Korn, who writes for Mother Jones, a progressive magazine, says he suspects that McCain campaign aides are now screening media conference calls. He writes today that on more than one occasion he has been ignored or cut off on those calls. And of course, there's McCain aide Mark Salter, who admitted about the new McCain campaign plane that members of the press have to earn a seat on that plane. In addition to this town hall meeting event now in Denver, are you seeing a pattern here that is a real break with the McCain of the past?
I don't know if it's as much of a break with the McCain of the past. It certainly is a break from the perception of the McCain of the past. But, I mean, the Straight Talk Express becomes a suck-up express now. I think they might as well go ahead and do some hand tooling on the leather on those seats in the front of the airplane and maybe have them emblazon the Fox News logo on them. What self-respecting reporter is going to want to go sit in those chairs and say, look, I'm a good guy. I've earned my way up here to the front of the airplane. It's absurd. I mean, they are basically saying to journalists around the country that if you write nice stuff about us, we're going to give you access and we're going to treat you well. What it does say about the McCain campaign is they are sophisticated enough to know that reporters are under some very undue pressures to show access on these campaigns, and the McCain people are trying to utilize that to their benefit.
James Moore, contributor to the Huffington Post, thanks for your time tonight.
My pleasure, Rachel.